What happens when, what happens on our journey into the separate reality? How is everyone out there today? Good to see you. I hope you're having a great day, and welcome to my channel. I do educational videos on a number of different subjects, all that I think are vitally important, especially in this Great Awakening, to kind of get a slightly different perspective on basic subjects, a more what I would say 5D or even 6D version of some of the basic subjects that we had studied when we were kids in school, and also just to kind of round out, to help us with, all kinds of practical things that we do throughout the day or that we take for granted. Health and fitness, diet and nutrition, meditation, but also, the academic subjects too, such as history, math and geometry, physics and chemistry, astronomy. And what I use to kind of ground all of those different subjects is the tree of life. So that's what we are focusing on for this kind of first unit on this channel, is the tree of life. And I will be doing 144 separate videos on different aspects of the tree that I've arrived at. And if you kind of like a scorecard for that, so that you can follow along on those videos, just click the link in the description and I'll send you a free guide to the 144, aspects of the tree. And then when I roll them out one at a time, you can kind of have a better overview. But that's a slightly more advanced way of looking at the tree. The first way we really look at the tree is just to look at the 12 major aspects. I'm focused in that guide. I'm focused on the 144 kind of minor aspects. But this is the 12 major aspects of the tree, and you can see here that this is these are 12. There are 10 different circles. Number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then there is an implied sphere here, circle called the abyss. And then there is a 0 region above the tree. So that is a total of 12 different categories. And what the tree does is the tree goes all the way back to at least ancient Egypt, if not before. And it's been used throughout time by different groups of people. Right now, it's a lot of the purview of a lot of the evil cabal that is trying to control us, mind control us through their, witchcraft or whatever. And but the tree itself is not evil in itself. It's just a technology like anything else, and it can be used depending on your intentions for good or evil. And so when we learn the tree, we learn it for the purposes of using it for positive purposes and also for defending ourselves against those evil attackers. So that is another reason why I teach Tree of Life. Basically what it is a map of our faculties of consciousness, or a map of consciousness. And again, we have these 12 different components, the numbers, and then the abyss and the 0 above the tree. So I'm going to kind of enumerate the 12 different categories or aspects of our consciousness, and then later in the program we will go over one of the 144 minor aspects and kind of show how they relate. So this 10th sphere is our wild animal consciousness. This is our survival instinct. This is our fight or flight response. the law of the jungle, kill or be killed, the state of nature. It's also the kind of the automatic responses of our body, like our life force. This is what keeps us alive. And then the 10th sphere can also go negative when you have lusts or defilements of the body that actually hinder your life force. So our life force naturally keeps us alive and in perfect health. But when we hinder that life force, that's when we start to get into problems. At first, if we have defilements of the body, we will hinder ourselves in minor ways, but gradually over time, the life force just becomes so encumbered with all of these defilements that it actually, our life force exhausts itself. So, the 10th sphere can go negative through our own actions, but through our the involuntary life force, we stay perfectly healthy. We don't have to do anything. We just have to, not violate any of the laws of life. Okay, then the 9th sphere is really our domestic consciousness, or really our domestic animal consciousness. This is when we are growing up in the home, the first few years of our lives, maybe up to 5 or 7 years old, and then to a lesser extent after that too. But this is where we are super receptive. Okay, we're like a sponge soaking everything up from our environment. Everything is like wondrous to us. And we watch what happens, especially our caregivers, those people who are looking after us in the home, and we imitate what they do. We watch what they do, we imitate what they do, and we practice or repeat that over and over again until we get it. And then, we memorize it. So that's the evolution of learning here at the 9th sphere. The problem with the 9th sphere is that it is blind. So it will imitate things that are good as well as evil, things that are good as well as bad. And then the 8th sphere is also blind, but it is where the 9th sphere is about domestic consciousness in the home. The 8th sphere is about the public world. So this is when we go out, we go to school, we go to church, we go to these other, the rec center, or, just out in the neighborhood, and we get the consensus. We get the word from the consensus, or the worldview from the consensus. We get the expert opinion. We get the conventional wisdom. We get the establishment beliefs and doctrines. So the worldview of the establishment. We get that from the television, which is kind of like an example where this 8th sphere, the public world, is kind of like invading the 9th sphere. So they're putting their agents into the home. So we do get it from the television early on, but we get it like for real when we go out into the public. And they tell us what we're supposed to believe, and then they tell us, how we're supposed to act and behave. And to the extent that we do that, they will let us gain access into their realm there. This is where all the resources are. This is where the establishment and the institutions are located. All the preachers and teachers and the doctors and the lawyers and the politicians and the media are here, and all the status quo and all the respect. This is where we're supposed to have respect for authority here. And they tell us what we're supposed to believe, but they're not always telling the truth, because the 8th sphere is a trickster and the 8th sphere is a deceiver. So sometimes they tell us the truth and sometimes they don't. You can kind of think of this as the 8th sphere again. If you invert it, it's still an 8. So it still looks the same regardless of whether it's inverted or not. And so it becomes very difficult to kind of figure out whether it's true or not. But what our faculties here at the Asphere are really our belief systems and our logical faculty. We can use the logical faculty to kind of think our way out of the Asphere to say, hey, you know what? I don't know whether I believe this or not. It doesn't really add up with my own experience, and it doesn't really add up to my own logical reasoning. Or we can use the Asphere in a negative manner with rationalization and circular reasoning and other fallacies of logic to actually support the Asphere, where, okay, well, it doesn't really correspond with my experience. There must be something wrong with my experience because I know these people are the authorities and I have to defer to them. So, we can use our logical faculty in a negative way, and that kind of gets us trapped in this little, area 8 and 9. Or we can use our logical faculty to recognize that, the Asphere is not the be-all and end-all, and that we move over to the 7th sphere. Where the Asphere is about the real world, the 7th sphere is about the imaginary world. So the 7th sphere is where we go when we recognize that there are problems with the Asphere, and we imagine a better way of doing the Asphere. We imagine some better component of the Asphere. Maybe it's not the whole Asphere we object to, but maybe it's a certain aspect of it. So at the 7th sphere, we have these faculty of imagination. We also have our inspiration, which is, to stand on the shoulders of people who came before us and to be inspired by them, to do what we have the ability to do. Also our intuition, which is our ability to go inside and, ask honestly, what is the right thing to do? This is kind of like conscience, where we're going inside and trying to figure out what the right thing is. What's conscience isn't a component of this intuition, where we're asking about good and evil, or whether we should do it or not. But our intuition also includes other questions, other wonderings that we have, where we can wonder just what is the truth about something. And we get answers, and those answers, are correct pending verification. The answers are correct. Whether we translate the answers correctly or not is another matter, and that's why we have to verify our intuitions. We also have our creative spark, our ability to make things, to make things that are new, to come up with things that haven't been out there. And then also our pleasure principle, which is to come up with things that are pleasing to other people. So we can use all those things to propose alternatives to the Asphere in the form of intellectual property, inventions, or creative resources. And then our inspiration also helps us to move up here to the 6th sphere. We really start moving up here once we really formulate a mission in our lives. Everybody in their life has a sacred mission, something that they're uniquely qualified for by the gifts that they were given from the Creator. And when we begin to start fulfilling that, most of the time we're told, what are you going to do? I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a cop. I'm going to be a banker, But here is, I'm going to be me. And by following that, that's what's going to lead us to the higher spheres. When we get to the 6th sphere, this is our free will faculty. This is, in free will is really our essence. This is where we are located. And, we're located here. It's kind of like this is where we are, and all these other ones are just kind of what we perceive. And the sixth sphere is our ability to, our free will faculties, our ability to pay attention and our ability to make decisions. And what we find, though, is that where we are paying attention is basically at 8, 9, and 10, and to a lesser extent 7. So we feel like we're down here, but we're really always here. But we feel like we're here because attention is a vector; it has a direction. So we feel like we're down here, but we're always really here. But what we have to do, because this is our comfort zone, these are ways that we grew up, and so we're comfortable dealing with this territory. But with our free will, which is paying attention and making decisions, we can make the decision to turn our attention around and to turn it up the tree instead of down the tree. Because again, attention is a vector, so you pay attention to something. So we can pay attention to the higher aspects of ourselves instead of the lower aspects of ourselves. And it's really that simple, but it's not that simple because it requires overcoming fear, or at least standing in the face of fear, because it's much, it's comfortable to look at this area that we're already accustomed to, but to turn around and face the unknown requires courage. And so the first kind of unknown that we're facing here is the fifth sphere, which is our sense of justice. And our sense of justice, you can always otherwise call that karma, which is as you sow, so shall you reap. And everything, for every action, there's equal opposite reaction. What comes around and goes around. So there's like a mirror here where we're acting and then we're getting immediate feedback on our actions. And now, incidentally, when we act, when we're kind of paying attention down here and we act, then our feedback, the karma comes back circuitously. And so there's a time lag between our actions and the reaction. But if we can get up here in a true state where we've accessed attention, where we're paying attention, then it comes back immediately, and we get instant feedback. And so what karma grades us on, more or less, is violence, waste, and violation. And so when we act with violence, we get a violent response in return. Now, that might not be the best result, but and it might make karma seem like our enemy. But if we are paying attention and we, are using karma as our friend, then karma is a feedback loop for us, and it's like it teaches us that we are the ones who committed the violence, and so we have the free will and the ability to change our behavior. And then if we do something less violent, then we get less violent feedback. So karma can become our teacher by paying attention to it. In the same way, the fourth sphere can become our teacher as well, where the fifth sphere is about sense of justice, is about the enforcement of the law or the natural order of things. The fourth sphere is about that the articulation of that law or the natural order of things. So this is all the cosmologies, all the holy books from ancient times up to now that purport to talk about how everything works. Who is God? Who are we? What are we doing here? What's our relationship with God? What are all the rules of motion and dynamics and physics and how all these different things work. Now, the cosmologies that have been arrived at over time are not correct in every regard. They always need to be kind of recalibrated as a result of new information, but they can provide a very good guide for us, especially if we use it with intuition. So when we study many different cosmologies and then we ask within us, how do we make sense of all these different things, we'll be able to arrive at an answer. So this is where the universals are located: universal law, universal language, and universal love. Then we have the abyss here. This is our psychic powers. This is our ability to tune into and recognize omens. And then that's our psychic receptivity. And then the second part is to be able to act upon those omens, which requires courage. So that's the psychic heat, psychic receptivity and psychic heat. Now the omen is like a coincidence, an uncanniness, a spontaneous action, a recurring theme or recurring word, something that is anomalous. And sometimes we overreact to these because probably because we just don't understand statistics well enough, and we think that certain things are really anomalous when they really aren't. Like, I don't think that something, where you say, he said the number 8, and that's my favorite number, so I thought that was anomalous. Well, the chances of it are really 1 out of 10. That's not really a coincidence. I mean, I don't feel like a coincidence is a coincidence until you're up to like 1 out of 100 or something. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong about that. So anyway, psychic heat and psychic receptivity. And the omen itself is like a magnetic charge. This is all magnets. Okay, then 3, 2, and 1 above the tree are basically our divine, not at the top of the tree, not above the tree, at the top of the tree, are our divine faculties within. Omnipotence, all-powerful; omniscience, all-knowing; and omnipresent, all-present, all at once. We tap into this through sound, we tap into this through vision, and we tap into this through unification, for actually being at this, merging with our higher self. And then the 0 above the tree is the mystery or nothingness. So this is not part of the universe, but it is part of the creator. So it's the part that the creator reserves for itself, and we only have like indirect access to it through the creator. Now we're going to be talking about the third sphere today, so hopefully we can delve into that a little bit more. So that is kind of the short introduction, even though it was longer than I wanted, to the 12 aspects of the tree. Now when we go to the 144, we basically go to the next level where we take the whole tree and we place it on each one of the spheres. So we break down each sphere into its 12 component faculties. We could do this process ad infinitum, but one step of it is enough to kind of really understand the tree a lot better. And maybe in the future we can go to that second step and maybe the third step eventually or whatever. But the first step is enough for right now. So we've got the 144 different minor aspects or fractal aspects. And today we're looking at number 110. What happens on our journey deep into the separate reality. And I think I said we were going to be talking about the third sphere today, but actually we're talking about the second sphere. It's the second sphere, and it's really the 9th fractal of the second sphere. So it's the 9th aspect here within the second sphere. Okay, the second sphere is about omniscience, all-knowing, and it has to do with being able to like shut our mind down in meditation to the point where we can calm our mind down enough so that our mind really becomes transparent and we can sink into this higher self at our deepest center. And when we are able to, or not even sink into, but to see through, we see through the mind as it becomes transparent. Just like a body of water, when the body of water becomes completely calm, you can see through it. So that is kind of the separate reality. The separate reality is actually the 10th fractal of the second sphere. And so this is about what happens on our journey into this separate reality. And that reflects the ninth sphere, which has to do with trance states or heightened receptivity. Number 110, ecstatic trance state. Stage number 110 is about entry into a state of bliss where thinking is shut down. The thinking process is preceded by a direct information download and a visual image. At that point, everything seems so clear. At that point, if a person is able to block out the accompanying verbal thought, the clarity remains. At this stage, we have learned the deep rhythmic breathing and upright posture at the proper angle that is necessary to gain the hyper-aware ecstatic trance state in meditation. Our body lean comes forward, small of the back in, chest out, shoulders back and down, abdomen in automatically whenever the pressure slips or the attention wanes. Tongue on the upper gum in the middle where the gum meets the teeth. Focus on the third eye, between, behind, and slightly above the eyebrows. Through this controlled breathing state, with no interference from strung together thought, we suddenly slip into a state that leads to calming the mind such that we can begin to see through it. The mind is speechless for once in this separate reality. Thought drift activity is a different degree of the dream activity. So in a sense, we are moving from a REM state to a non-REM state when we shut down thought drift. Ecstatic trance is like a waking non-REM or a lucid non-REM. Hyper-wakeful state where the sphere of awareness becomes free of thoughts, free of waves, free of turbulence, allowing our consciousness to see and then eventually be that which is conscious, the superconscious, at the core, at the center of the mind, experiencing. Pain and suffering is due to turbulence in the mind. Seek the peace inside the pain. Runner's high, the state of ultra running, from long-term exertion, from long-term development that lowers the amplitude, that calms the vicissitudes. We get to ecstasy through not thinking for long enough to get through the memory rewind or the dream state, REM. We feel our body, every percept, with no commentary. Not thinking is like excavating in time, aggregating space in time like bubbles. Witness, apprentice of the divine perfection leads to wisdom, hyper-aware, ecstatic trance state. We get the energetic download from consciousness and the image, but we have not yet followed that up with a verbal thought. Not until the trance is over will we begin to think about it. Okay, that is the ninth fractal of the second sphere, number 110, ecstatic trance state. And that is the minor aspect or the fractal faculty that we're looking at today. Tomorrow I will be covering a different fractal faculty, a different number up to 144. You can try to guess what it would be, especially if you do click the link in the description and get the free guide to the 144 fractal faculties, and then you'll know what they all are before I roll them out. And that could be an advantage to you, especially if you're tuning into multiple videos that I do. Okay, well, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. Please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video with others, and tune in tomorrow for a new video. And you can donate directly to me if you're so inclined through Cash App or Venmo listed in the description. And please have a beautiful day, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.